Yeah. Here's the photos. Yeah. Also, my picture of this. That's what I'm saying. Yeah. I didn't tell people.
And how many of you thought, why is he ringing that annoying bell? I'm gonna show you a small animation. I have an artist that I'm working with that creates these stories from situations I've encountered over the years. And then also I'll show you, it's my YouTube channel. So my YouTube channel is Bryan Post, and it's Bryan with a Y. And it's just a great place for more education for all of you. But I'm going to show you one of these animations. At the time, he was living in a group home. He became overwhelmed and lost control. His past was filled with pain, and that pain came out as aggression. Breaking things was his way of showing what he could say. I know, I'm asking you. I can tell if he's breaking a window, I would match his intensity. Not everyone is ready to do this. I've been doing this a long time. So I said, go ahead, break the window. No one had ever matched the class's intensity before. So I said, go ahead and break the window. After staring at me in shock, he took off out of the back door. Max says, stop following me, and then goes back into the house. I follow right behind him. I said, I know how mad you are. I know how upset you are. Once inside the house, ran into the room and slammed the door, and I followed in behind him. I walked in behind him and closed the door. He was standing across the room, and I'm sure he was going to throw something as he picked up a bottle of hand sanitizer. So I picked up the gun. Let me out. I can't, buddy. Let me out. I can't, buddy. It's too scary out there. And out there, I can't keep you safe. In here, I can keep you safe. I'm so sorry. No adult has ever been able to keep you safe. I'm so sorry that no one has made you feel okay. I'm so sorry that you just passed from facility to facility and you've been hurt and now you're bad, makes me bad, but you've never been able to feel safe. I'm so bad, and I'm so smart. I want you to be able to feel safe. Somewhere during the episode, I've gotten a tiny scratch from my arm, and blood started to flow down. And Matt sat next to me, picked up the bottle of hand sanitizer, and handed it to me to help with the moment. He sat beside me for a little bit. We just talked. And he had completely calmed down. That ended up being his last major outburst. He went from scary 13-year-old to an 25-year-old, which emotionally he really was. That breakthrough was so powerful that let him relax and just believes it. I always tell people, in times of stress, don't look at a child's emotional age. Look at their emotional age. Beat them in. This changes everything because they no longer feel threatened. I didn't see a big 13-year-old, I saw a scared 5-year-old. And that changed everything. Sometimes all it takes is one moment in pain. You can often tell a child's emotional range just by watching their behavior. The therapist once said the deepest trauma usually happens in the first 5 years of life. So under stress, we tend to progress to those early stages. When a child is aggressive or destructive, they might be functioning like a 2-year-old emotion. We often misjudge them because that behavior is coming from the body of a teenager. But if you separate the behavior from the age and ask, what age does this behavior belong to? You'll see where they truly are. And that's what we need to do. Now, this story resonates with you. Share it with someone who might also need it.
What do you think? I'm going to show you one more. This is my latest one.
This story took place in a group home I used to run for adolescent boys, ages 13, 17. All of these teenagers had experienced difficult situations and had been in multiple places throughout the state and even placed outside of the state. One evening I had to go to a meeting and we were short staffed. So I asked Mr. O, one of our teachers for the school, and Willie, our housekeeper, to stay up and watch the boys. I just need you to be here. I don't need you to do anything else. You don't have to try to make them do chores. You don't have to try to tell them when to go to bed. Even if they want to go outside and go walking around, you said it's okay. Just let them do whatever it is that they want to do. The reason I said that is because I knew my boys were regulated. I knew that they were not going to do anything that was going to be that bad that would cause any significant issues. Sometimes this can be very difficult for adults to understand. So after giving those instructions, off we went. My program director and I to review. So probably 45 minutes into the meeting, I got a phone call. It was from T. His nickname was Low Bear. The reason his nickname was Low Bear is because he was the most aggressive in the whole.
Post, where are you at? When you gonna be home? Post?
I'm gonna be there a little bit. Everything okay?
No, Mr. O is tripping, man. He's telling us what to do.
I'm gonna be there just a little bit. I need you guys to just go in your room, watch TV, play some music, go for a walk. Everything's gonna be okay. I'll be here shortly. 15 minutes later, he calls again.
Hey, Post, what's going on, man? When you gonna be here?
Okay, we're just wrapping up. I'm on my way. So we drive for 30 minutes back to the home. And by this time it was dark and I could see all the boys outside, 2 police cars. And I was like, oh goodness. What's going on?
Things got kind of out of hand, so I had to call the police.
Where's the lady? The housekeeper.
Oh, she quit about 2 hours into the shift.
Okay, Mr. O, thank you for being here. You can go ahead and head home. So he left. I stood with the police officers for a bit longer. And I said, okay, guys, thank you for being here. You guys can go ahead and take off. I said to the boys, hey, give me the ball, because they had the basketball passing around. Give me the ball, everyone upstairs, time for bed, in your rooms, let's go, let's go, let's go. And within 2 minutes, all the boys were in the house and in their bedroom. I sat at the top of the stairs. The reason I sat there is because I was certain that one of the boys or 2 were going to come out. And if they came out, I wanted to be there to regulate the other boys so that they wouldn't come out. So as I was sitting there, sure enough, Little Bear and his roommate, Doug, both came out. I moved aside. They went downstairs to the kitchen. I waited for just a couple more minutes to make sure the other boys were coming out of their room. And then I followed behind them downstairs. They were sitting at the kitchen table, eating a bowl of cereal. So I walked over and I sat down with them. Hey, what happened tonight?
Man, Mr. O was tripping. He was trying to tell us what we couldn't watch on TV, trying to boss us around, tell us what we couldn't do. Man, we got tired of that.
Hey, what happened with Lydia?
Oh, she quit. And T.I.P in the middle of the floor. That's when she actually left.
I thought someone in the middle of the floor.
Oh yeah, right there.
Turned around, and there was a chair in the middle of the living room. I walked over, I moved the chair, and kneeled down. I touched the wet spot to make sure that it was wet, and sure enough, it was wet. I kept the clothing supplies in the towel, and I went back to the spot, and I began cleaning it up. When I was cleaning the pee, after I got the cleaning supplies and went and cleaned the pee, I noticed that one corner of my eyes, it's as if the jaws were on the teeth. It's like milk flying out of the mouth. They were in complete shock. They couldn't believe that I was cleaning the pee.
Bryan Post, I didn't expect you to clean it up.
But well, why not?
I don't know. I just expected the housekeeper to clean it.
That, well, you know what? It's my fault that I left you guys in an environment that I thought was going to be safe and everything was going to be okay. But I let you down because in August it was really stressful. And the reason I know that is because 2-year-olds pee in the middle of the floor, not 16-year-olds. So that tells me that it was so stressful here that you regressed to the 2-year-old and put it in the middle of the floor. And I'm really sorry that happened. I hope you guys can forgive me, and I'll do better next time.
Well, I'm gonna go pee in the middle of the floor then.
I paused. I made eye contact with you very firmly, and I said, "You do what you need to do." With a very nervous laugh, he just went back to eating his stuff. You guys finish your cereal and go to bed. They promptly finished their cereal, put their bowls in the seat, and upstairs to their bed. 10 years later, little Bear wanted to come for a visit. I was living in Arkansas at that time. One evening, while we were driving home from an outing,
Hey, Post, you know what the first time was that I ever felt loved?
"Well, little Bear, when was that?"
You remember at the group home when I peed in the floor and you cleaned it up?
I said, "Sure, buddy, I remember."
When you cleaned that pee up, that was the first time I ever felt loved.
Said, "Well, I do love you, buddy. And I'm glad you're here to listen." And our relationship continued after that. And he's living his best life in the world. Now, this story resonates with you. Share it with someone who might also need help with their child. And it
Thank you. Thank you very much. All right. Let's see what we're doing here. Suzanne, what time's lunch? 12:30? Okay, another hour. 12:30, you said? Okay, I'm gonna go over this quickly, but it's really too important to go over quickly, but I can really spend the whole day over it. These next couple of things, because they're super important. Einstein says everything is energy and that's all there is to it. Match the frequency of the reality that you want, and you cannot help but get that reality. It can be no other way. This is not philosophy, this is physics. Match the frequency of the reality that you want, and you cannot help but get that reality. Here's why it's important. Every feeling state has an associated vibration. I speak a lot about love and fear. But there's all kinds. Every time you have a feeling state, you create that vibration. That vibration leads to a frequency. So whatever is happening in a moment's time, there is a frequency that is created. It's a sound. It literally has a gigahertz sound to it, but it's so high pitched you can't hear it. So there's a frequency to this room, but we can't hear it because we don't have that kind of hearing, but we can feel it. So every situation has a frequency. You ever walked into a time when two people are arguing, and then all of a sudden they stop, but you know they're arguing, right? It's because you feel it. Your sensory system feels it. There's four dimensions to our reality. There's 4 dimensions to who we are. There's your first dimension, which is the past. The second dimension, which is the present, the third dimension, which is the future, and the fourth dimension is the dimension of creativity. The first dimension is how we're programmed. So if you never ask, if you never question, if you never do anything different, that's what 95% of people do. Just go do the same thing over and over and get the same results. That's just the first dimension. It's just past programming. The present is the second dimension. That's the now. When we're focused, when we're here, when we're present, when we're not worried about what's happening next, or when we're not reacting from something we've already had, that's something that's already happened. The significance of the present is that stress causes us to react from the past, obsess about the future, but it takes us out of the present. Okay, stress causes you to react from the past, obsess about the future. Have you ever said, what's my child going to be like when he's 18? Right, but he's 5. Or if it was this bad in school this year, I imagine how bad it's going to be next year. That's obsessing about the future. That's taking you out of the present. Significance is the presence, is the only presence that exists. This is the only state that exists. The only dimension that actually exists is the present. Nothing else exists beyond this present moment. Everything else is just an illusion of this. There's nothing outside of this moment that is promised to any of us. And I really just want to slow down with that for a moment because it's so important. We're thinking about going home today. We're thinking about what happened last night. We're thinking about what happened, 20 years ago, what's going to happen 10 years ago. All of that's an illusion. The only thing that exists is right here. Because the next moment isn't promised to any of us. Just this present moment. But when you get stressed, you're reacting from the past. You're obsessing about the future, but you're getting pushed out of the present moment. Now, what you're creating in the present moment, the energy that you're creating in the present moment, the vibration that you're feeling in the present moment, has the greatest likelihood of showing up in the future. Deepak Chopra, are you familiar with Deepak Chopra? I've been around a long time. He says you cannot prevent the future. So none of you can prevent the future. I can't prevent the future. None of us can prevent the future. But we can influence the future from the present. You can influence the future from the present. You might have, some of you may have heard that you reap what you sow. What you put into the present has the greatest likelihood of showing up in the future. Well, that's where the fourth dimension comes in. The fourth dimension is the dimension of creativity. The fourth dimension is like a canvas, and you're the artist. Now, anything you want in the fourth dimension, you can create. There's no limitations. There's no limitations in the fourth dimension. The only limitations are the limitations that you bring into it. But there are no limitations. So I want to do a little exercise with you. Here's what we're going to do. Put your pins in your lap, close forward. Just consider what it's being. We only have a very short period of time together, so it's really important to put all into this that you can. Okay, so take some deep breaths. Close your eyes. I'm not going to steal your purse, so don't worry. You can relax. Close your eyes, keep breathing. And in your mind, I want you to see a canvas. You're the artist. All of you have an outcome that you desire. There's something that you want. There's a reason you came to this day. Whatever the reason is, if you could have anything that you want from the outcome of this day, that's the desire. I want you to paint that on the canvas. I want you to put that on the canvas. What would that look like? If there was an outcome for today, if there's a goal or desire that you want for your family, for your relationship with your child, what does that look like? So keep breathing and just take a moment and just put a picture right there on that canvas for what that looks like. And put some detail into it. Put some detail into it. Give it a little bit of color. Give it a little bit of excitement. Put a little frequency to it. Whatever, don't put limitations on it. See, limitations come from the past. Create that reality, whatever it is that you want. Paint that picture, and now associate a feeling. What's it feel like? Keep breathing. What is that? If you could paint that outcome, what does it feel like? Connect to that. Anchor to that. Anchor to that. Now open your eyes. Someone give me an outcome. What would an outcome be for you?
Freedom, children, longevity.
Your children have actually. And that's it.
And that's exciting.
You know, a house by the sea. Oh, I like that. How does that feel? Oh, that's good. Feels good, doesn't it? Feels so good, make you want to cry. It squeezes your heart. Squeezes your heart. Love that. That's great. That's great. Hang on to that. Who else? Who else? Someone else. Come on. You may not.
Freedom
Freedom.
from health issues, from being able to create opportunities for our children,
Oh, I love that.
taking it forward.
What's it feel like?
It feels so expansive.
Oh, it feels expansive. That's beautiful. That's beautiful. One more. Susan's daughter living her best life. And how does that feel? It just feels, can't put it into words, it just feels, that's beautiful. All of you feel it, right? And they talk about it, everyone felt that. Now, that's the power of the fourth dimension. The fourth dimension, you can create anything you want. You anchor to the feeling, and when you anchor to the feeling, you pull it into the present. That creation in the fourth dimension, you brought it into the present, you felt it in this moment. You felt it in this moment. When you feel it in this moment, and Deepak says, you cannot prevent the future, but you can influence the future from the present. That's powerful. So here's the challenge. The challenge is that when you're stressed and when there's evidence to the contrary of the outcome, you've got to slow down and you've got to go back to that fourth dimension. You've got to connect to that feeling, and with that feeling back into the present in the midst of all craziness. That's the challenge. That's the work. Now, many of you think I'm just blowing a bunch of shit. But I'm telling you, there's power in this. It is the power. It is the power. And people don't want you to know that because it gives you too much power. But if you can take your mind into the outcome that you desire, and you can hang on to that feeling, and you can bring that feeling into the present, that is what you are going to grow, regardless of what's showing up in the moment. And that's super powerful. So that's why Einstein said, match the frequency of the reality. And it can be no other way. Now, most of you get mired down in stress and fear by your children's behaviors. You get overwhelmed and scared because they're acting crazy, doing crazy and scary things. And then what happens is that's what gets generated in the present. More stress and more anxiety. But guess what? Kids are gonna do crazy things. Because they're kids. Their brains are not developed. And you have kids who have experienced trauma. So you have kids with trauma brains. They're highly sensitive kids. Highly sensitive. They are stress sensitive kids. They are overwhelmed. They are going to do crazy things. The most powerful thing you can do in the presence of their craziness is hold that feeling for what you want, not for what is. If you can hold the feeling for what you want, not for what is, then that shifts the you will respond to your child in that moment, which means their brain is going to have a different experience than what they're used to having. And you can do that at any time. Anytime. This does not have to take weeks and months. This can happen fast. When I said to that mom, sit on the bed, take 3 to 10 deep breaths, get in touch with how you feel in a moment. She ended 4 years of chaos. I had another mom heard me tell that same story. She emailed me, I was in a lecture. She emailed me 2 weeks later. And she said, I heard you tell that story of that little girl and that mom. She said, it reminds me of my daughter. My daughter's also 9 years old. My daughter's name is also Christina. She said, every night for the last 5 years, we have had issues with her taking a shower. 5 years, issues taking a shower. When I go in and I say, hey, it's time for a shower, she just fights me and resists me and huffs and puffs and rolls her eyes. She said, but I heard you tell that story, so I'm going to do something different. I was breathing, I was regulated. She said, I went up to her room. I said, honey, it's time to take a shower. She said that I was calm this time. And she said, my daughter started rolling her eyes, but she always that was kind of mumbling. But she went and got the shower. I couldn't believe it. But sure enough, she called me just like she always does. Mom, the water's too hot, it's too cold. I don't like this soap. I don't like this towel. Mom said usually bugs the heck out of me. But this time I went in, I got everything she needed. And I said, honey, if you need anything else, I'll be right here. She said, I just sat there in the bathroom while she took her shower. She said, that was the best shower we had in 5 years. So I thought I'd go for a home run. She said, my daughter got out of the shower, so that's a towel right there. We sat on the edge of her bed. I put my arm around her. And I said, honey, that's the best shower we've had in 5 years. What scares you so much about taking a shower? She said, my little girl looked up at me and said, Mom, the guy who sexually molested me made me take a shower with him. Mom knew about little girl being molested in daycare, but she didn't know about the shower. She said, I looked at my daughter and I said, honey, you don't have to take a shower anymore. You can take a bath. She said 2 weeks later, my daughter was in and out of the tub so fast, 5 minutes to overcome 5 years. Just by slowing down and asking, what scares you so much? So there's power there. There's enormous power there. We don't have, this doesn't have to take, the only thing that takes the weeks and the months and the years is us getting out of our own way. That's the only thing. Us getting out of our own way. We got to get out of our own way. Those boys in my group home, there were 6 of them. We had no relationship with those boys. We had created regulation with those boys. I knew that night when I was going to that meeting, I just needed someone to be there. I don't need you to do anything. I just need an adult here. Just sit on the couch and watch TV and do nothing. Because I knew they were regulated enough, nothing bad was going to happen. There were 6 of them. So when little baby started calling me, I knew it was getting stressful. I'm just like, hold on, dude, I'll be there just a little bit, just hold on. And that night, when I got back and all those police officers were there, I knew it had gotten out of control. Mr. O had taken the door off of one of their bedrooms. And I said, Mr. O's one of our school teachers. I said, you don't have to do anything. But that's so hard for us when we've been programmed. We need to ask you for quit. He was not going to feel some 16-year-old looking it out here on the little floor. That told me nothing more than everyone was stressed out. That's all it told me. It didn't tell me that my kids were bad. It told me that my kids had been so stressed out. And guess whose fault that was? It was mine. It was mine. I know the pain they come from. All those boys came from abuse and neglect and sexual abuse and loss. So when you get really stressed out, that's what you go back to. So me putting them in an environment where they didn't feel safe, I didn't expect anything more than that. So when he told me that he peed in the middle of the floor and he laughed about it, he wasn't scared about it. They laughed. They thought it was funny. But I knew he was a 2-year-old. I knew he had come from pain. So when I cleaned up that pee, it was nothing more than me to demonstrate, hey, I'm the one who messed up. I'm the one who messed up. But he sat there and he watched me. His jaw was on the ground. He was like, oh, hey, I didn't expect you to clean it up. Because we had a relationship. And that was the last time I said, finish your cereal and go to bed. And Doug said, wow, you move forward. I said, you do what you need to do. Just like that, you do what you need to do, bud. If you're that stressed out that you need to pull it out, you and forward again. We're gonna figure it out. They finished their cereal, they put their cereal in the sink, and they went to bed. And we never talked about it again. We never talked about it again. I did not need to punish. I didn't need the consequence. If anyone needed the punishment or the consequence, it's me. I was the one who didn't create the state of fire. Not him. And when he told me that 10 years later, that was great. That was fantastic. He said the first time I ever felt love, he was 16 years old. He had probably known me for less than a year. The first time I ever felt love was when you cleaned up that pee. That's powerful. And that was something we never discussed again. We've never discussed whatever you put into the present increases the odds that that's what you're going to see in the future. When your kids are acting crazy, just don't act crazy with them. And even if you might act a little crazy, because that's how we're wired, right? Catch yourself. Catch yourself. Slow down, back up. Apologize. Say you'll do better and then move on. But just don't go crazy with them and don't keep doing it. If you keep going crazy with their crazy, you're going to keep getting crazy. It almost seems like common sense, doesn't it? Okay, I'm the kind of teacher who, when I ask questions, the answers are always simple. So I don't do like trick questions. So you look at these two babies. Which baby had a good pregnancy and which baby didn't have a good pregnancy? The one on the left had a good pregnancy. That's me. That's me when I was a baby. I was adopted. I was in foster care. First time I met my biological mother, I was 37 years old. The first thing she said to me is, I loved being pregnant. She said, I ate right, I didn't smoke, I got exercise, I did everything I was supposed to do. I loved being pregnant, and that's my base. This is my sister. My adopted sister, we're not biological. My adopted sister was conceived to a single mother who drank alcohol, possibly used drugs. My sister was 3 months premature. She spent the first 3 months of her life in an incubator. She weighed 3.5 pounds. Those are the eyes of a stressed out infant. The eyes of a stressed out infant. Those early experiences defined our lives. I had a more effective ability than my sister to regulate stress. And that came from my in utero experience. As early as the 4th week after conception, the fetus can hear. As early as the 2nd trimester, the fetus is capable of psychological processing. The first 9 months in the womb help to define who you are to this day. John Bowlby said the first 3 years of our lives established the blueprints of all of our future social and emotional relationships. After the decade of the brain, we now know that from conception to the age of 5, your brain develops faster than at all times. Maybe Merv Harris wrote a book called The Deepest Well. She says that in the first year of life, from conception to one, because I said, when you say the one, I said, you mean from conception, right? She's like, yeah. Our brain forms 1 million neural connections per second. 1 million neural connections per second in that first year. You are downloading everything and you're storing it in your brainstem. Now, here's the question I ask you. What was your birth like? What was your in utero experience like? Where was your mom when she was pregnant with you? Where was dad? What was life like? Were they happy? Were they stressed? Was there alcohol? Was there good food? Was someone depressed? Was there violence? What was your in utero experience like? Because you know what, right now today, when you get really stressed out, you can go all the way back to that experience. When you become stressed, your brainstem gets activated. When you're stressed, you regress. Every single one of us. When we stress, we regress. We have to stop looking at children's biological age and start looking at their emotional age. When you're stressed, you have to ask yourself, how old am I right now? Are you an adolescent trying to parent an adolescent? Or maybe you're 5 trying to parent an adolescent. Or maybe you're so stressed out you're acting like a baby. And if you have spouses that get stressed out like little babies, don't raise your hands. Your little princess, purple rain, little red Corvette. You said at your age, not your shoe size. Alan Shore is a neuroscientist. And he said he did a meta-analysis of stress and stress. He said some adults in times of stress have the ability to revert to infancy. Because we do, we can get so stressed out we progress. We're still in our physical body. I'm still 52. I'm still 52 of my physical body. I'm still 52 of my intelligence. But when I stress, I regress, and the emotion takes over everything. The emotion takes over everything, and that's what it dictates. So slide from Bruce Perry shows the same size of two 3-year-olds. One that comes from normal development and one that comes from extreme neglect. The volume of their brain is literally different. Because overwhelming, prolonged, unpredictable stress can shrink and shrivel areas of the brain. This is my family, my mom and my dad. Now, this is where it gets interesting. Because my bio mother enjoyed being pregnant, so I was able to regulate stress. My sister, her bio mother, did stuff she shouldn't have done. So my sister, being premature, was emotionally arrested. So my sister was very immature her entire life. She was 5 and enjoyed playing with 2-year-olds. She was 10 and enjoyed playing with 5-year-olds. She was 15 and enjoyed playing with 10-year-olds. She was always immature. So she was always out of sync with her peers. You follow that? Out of sync with her peers. Socially and emotionally arrested. Now, my parents, so we talk about myself and we talk about my sister. We know that we're adopted and we're stress sensitive and we're fearful. But what about my parents? My parents who loved us. They loved us. They brought us into their home. They wanted children. They were consistent, predictable. My parents didn't drink. They didn't smoke. We were raised in the same home. My dad worked in a rock quarry for 35 years. Hard work, came home, he put food on the table. We never wanted for anything. But my parents were completely stressed out and emotionally absent. My parents were the children of alcoholics. My mother was the oldest girl of 10. Her father died in front of her, had a heart attack in front of her when he was 9 years old, when she was 9 years old. She became parentified. She raised her up. Her sibling was younger than her. To this day, they look at her as a mother figure. She didn't have a childhood. Being parentified is a child who was parentified, therefore no longer has a childhood. So they take on all the characteristics of being an adult. My father grew up with an alcoholic. His dad was killed in a bar. He was the oldest son of 9. He went to Vietnam and came back with severe post-traumatic stress syndrome. He was so freaked out coming back from work. I remember my dad always sleeping on the nightlight one next to him. But in therapy, if there were problems, if there were issues, if Bryan was having behavior problems, or Christy was having behavior problems, guess what all the focus was? On Bryan and Christy. Nothing on the fact that my parents were freaking out and losing their shit consistent. And what parents that come from the 40s and 50s learned to do? They learned to hit, they learned to yell. So it was all corporal punishment. And it was not spanking. It was whipping. We got whippings. Because what we do when we're stressed is we do more of what's not working. And we don't learn from it. And I balance that against that my parents loved us. My father's passed away now. But my mother still laughs. She's 78 years old. She's my biggest fan. She fighting here. She would literally try to fight all of you for me. I would have to hold her back. And it's a beautiful thing. It's a blessing as the adopted child to have a mother who claims you that way, because she's always claiming, even though I did all the crazy stuff as a kid, my behaviors were worse than my sister's behaviors. I had more behavior problems than my sister did. I just didn't get caught. And I was smart. So I did good in school. I had good social and emotional relationships. I was popular. So I didn't have nearly the stress that she did. The poor baby, guess who the poor baby is in there? He's got a clip going around with on that Instagram talking about kids. No 2 kids grow up in the same home. That's beautiful. Because we don't. Because every relationship is different. My relationship with my parents and with my teachers and with my peers and with my extended family members was 100% different than my sister's. 100% different. Even though I had those behavior problems, even though I got whipped and I got hit and I got yelled at, I eventually got old enough to where I got smart enough that I didn't get caught anymore. I didn't stop lying and fighting and stealing. I didn't stop doing any of that. I just didn't get caught anymore. I could sneak out of my house and not get caught. My sister couldn't even climb out the window without breaking a window or knocking something over. So then all the focus was on her all the time. And with my parents, they just got more stressed out and more stressed out and more stressed out. And it started from the time she was a baby. My mom said, when we adopted you, you were smiling. When we got your sister, she was crying. And that was the defining moment. No one said to them, she's stressed out. Because that's all they had to say. That's all they had to say. Is here's this little baby. She's really stress sensitive and scared. So you're going to have to be really gentle with her. That's all they said. But they didn't say that. So then what did my parents do? They took all of her behaviors personal. They personalized all their behaviors. And you all do it now. You do it when you're adopted children and your foster children. You can't not. You can't not. People tell you don't take it personal, but you know why you do? Because you're a victim. See, your amygdala, your fear receptor, as soon as it picks up on the vibration that your child is sending off, it goes down into your brainstem and activates the rest of your cellular system, and that becomes really personal. Now it's really personal. But here's what you got to do. You got to take a deep breath. You got to say, no one's got to die. You got to say, everything's going to be all right. You got to calm all that cellular, that neural physiological activation. You got to calm it down, and you got to create space for your child to be crazy without you being crazy along with it. Did I say that too fast? Because that's what you got to do. But if you don't do that, they get stressed out and you get stressed out. And then what you start doing is the same thing they start doing. You start asking, what am I doing wrong? All of you came here today with some semblance of, what am I doing wrong? What am I not doing enough of? What am I missing? And you left children at home feeling like mom and dad are going to a seminar because I'm a bad kid. Because I'm messing up. I just can't get my brain to work right. I'm making bad choices. I got a diagnosis. Why don't leave? I need my medication. Everyone's blaming themselves. And it's no one's fault. It's not your fault. You didn't mess up. You didn't mess up. You just didn't know. You didn't know. And I'm telling you, you can separate their behavior from you. You are doing a great job. I'm going to tell you again, you're doing a great job. I'm not just blowing smoke up your ass. I'm going to tell you how I know you're doing a great job. Because your children haven't told you yet. Because it's door. You are winning. You are winning. You don't even realize it. Your children are using their window of tolerance for how much stress they can handle based on what you've helped them to develop. You've helped them develop through co-regulation a window of tolerance for how much stress they can handle. And when they use that window of tolerance the most is when they're not around you. That is what regulation and co-regulation is all about. It is about learning to develop the oxytocin ability, which is your brain's anti-stress hormone. Learning how to turn on oxytocin in my brain in the presence of stress when my effective regulatory figure is no longer around. That's what regulation is all about. That's how you develop internal mechanisms of control. The internal mechanism of control is oxytocin. You turn on oxytocin in the presence of stress. Oxytocin doesn't happen automatically. Oxytocin has to be learned. You have to learn it, and you only learn it when it's modeled for you. So you all have been modeling for your children how to have a window of tolerance that they're using when they're away from you. So I know that you're winning and you're doing a good job. It's not as bad as you think it is. You make it, it feels bad. It feels bad because of the stress. Because when the stress sets in, you don't interrupt it. It doesn't get interrupted, so there's no repair. See, we got to start repairing the stress. You got to start having bad times, and then you got to recover. You got to repair it. Because it's not the stress that is the problem. It's the failure to repair the stress that's the problem. Do you know it can take the body 36 hours to clear stress? 36 hours to clear stress. So when you have a stressful experience, it can take the body 36 hours to clear cortisol. Well, some of your kids can't go 36 hours before they're in trouble again. That was the situation with my sister. With my sister, we couldn't go 3 days before she was in trouble again. So she literally never had an opportunity to recover from the cortisol flowing in her brain. So she couldn't develop oxytocin. She could not develop oxytocin. Because everywhere she looked, she was getting in trouble by someone. If she wasn't getting in trouble at home, she was getting in trouble at school. If she wasn't getting in trouble at school, she was getting in trouble with her peers. Or with extended family members, or at church, everywhere she went, it was negative. It was negative. And the only thing someone had to do is say to my parents when she was a baby, she is stress sensitive and scared, and you have to be real gentle with her. And she's gonna cry, and there's nothing you did wrong. Breathe, calm yourself down. It's gonna be okay. No one's gonna die. But no one did that. No one had that understanding. So when my sister was there, my sister left home at 15. She was in and out of jail before she was 18. My sister didn't run away, she left. She got tired of fighting with my parents. At 15, you're not getting a spanking or a whipping. That's a fight. My mother said it got so bad she wanted to hit my sister in the head with a hammer. That's how stressful it got in my home. It was the most peaceful after she was gone. Because before that, it was like, we're free and we're always yelling. You know what? I always blame my sister. I always thought she was the problem. I always thought she was the problem until one day I was 27 years old. I was already traveling around the US, lecturing and talking to work with families. And I'd flown in from California, flown into Dallas, and I had to go to, I was doing some consulting in the military hospital. And so I spent the night in Dallas, and about 2:30 in the morning, I just got to sleep about midnight. My mom calls me and wakes me up. She said, your sister's in the hospital in Wichita Falls. She's pregnant. They don't think she's gonna make it with the baby. I said, okay. Thanks for letting me know. We hung up. I hung up. I was so mad. I was so mad because my mom had called and woke me up about more bullshit with my sister. It's the same thing. It's happening the same thing my whole life. I was mad. I fell back to sleep. When I woke up that next morning at like 5:30, which like just a couple hours later, I was still mad. I was still mad. I was driving, so I had about three and a half hour drive and driving, just mad. And then it started raining, and all of a sudden God just went bing, and I started thinking about my sister, and I spiraled all the way back to her birth and moving forward. And I said, oh my God, her entire life has been stressful. No one ever looked at her in a loving way. I never looked at her in a loving way. Parents didn't look at her in a loving way. She could not win. So my mom, she had said, I really felt like a preacher. I started liking the face. She said, your sister's in the hospital in Wichita Falls. Pretty big city in Texas. And I was driving right through there. Let me tell you something. A day before that call, I wouldn't even given a thought to stop. Day before that moment, I would just want to crack there, I'm not stopping and going away. But I got to Wichita Falls, it was still dark. I found that hospital in the middle of the city. It was just dark and day. I found that hospital, I parked, I walked into that hospital, went right up to the floor she was on, and walked right into her room. I do not know how it happened, other than like just right. I walked in that hospital door, and she saw me, and she said, Bryan, because I was the last person she expected to see. I was the last person I expected to see. And I pulled up a chair next to her bed, and I took her hand in mine. That was the first affection I had shown to my sister in 27 years. And I said, I am so sorry. I said, your entire life has been stressful. And I have not been kind to you, and you have not had kids. You know, we just sat there and we held hands and we cried and we talked. When I walked out of that room, I felt like I had a sister for the first time in 27 years. And when I got to the door, I said, I love you. And she said, I love you too. That was the first time I ever said, I love you, my sister, in 27 years. Because I had always blamed her. I had always blamed her for all the stress. So a lot of times parents are like, well, what about the other kids? What about the other kids in the home? The other kids in the home are going to create their definition of their siblings based on how you define their siblings. If you define their siblings as out of control and bad and have a problem, that's how they're going to look at it. But if you define their siblings as stressed out, scared, and overwhelmed and stressed, that's how they're going to define it. That's how they define some understanding. So my sister was in and out of prison over the years. She went to prison for 2 years. She got out. Prison was good for her. It gave her brain a chance to develop and to mature. So the last sentence she got out, she was doing better. And she was driving. She had 3 kids. I have 2 nephews and a niece, and she was driving to my nephew at that time. He's 7 years old. She drove to his birthday party, and she was headed back home. He was living with friends of hers who were foster parents. So she went to his birthday party. She was driving back home. It was an ice storm. The semi-truck slid across the road and hit her head on and killed her. She was 37 years old. And the night before the funeral, my mom said, you know what your sister always needed, but she never got? I said, no, Mom, what was that? She said, understanding. She said, we never understood her. And that has defined my professional career. The only thing I want to do is just create a different understanding for you all. See, I had to go through all of that stuff. I had to go through all of it. It's the way it was meant to be. I wouldn't be here right now if I hadn't gone through all of that. But I want you to understand that your children are stress sensitive and scared. And when your children get scared and they have problem behaviors, then it stresses you out, it makes you scared. And then you have two people in a system being scared and stressed out. And all you can get is more scared and more stressed. One person has to breathe. One person has to calm down. One person has to be able to say, I'm not gonna die. Everything's gonna be all right. We're gonna get through this. One person has to be able to do that. And that's us, the adults. That's our responsibility. Questions? Is this good? Yes or yes? I believe that the biggest challenges that you're facing in your families, in your home, with your kids, in your relationship with your kids right now comes from unexpressed grief. I believe that that's the root. And I used to say that emotional absence and parental depression were the two most pervasive forms of trauma that exist in our society, but I don't think that's true anymore. I think it's unexpressed grief. I believe that we're carrying generations of unexpressed pain and overwhelm and loss. And that's what's showing up. And we already know with our adopted children and foster children. Now I know as an adopted child, I never had an opportunity to grieve that loss. In all the myriad of ways that it could have came through my behaviors. But what about my parents having an opportunity to grieve their loss? No. Just 2 generations back, 3 generations back in my family, and we're in slavery. You think there's an opportunity for grief in slavery? Absolutely. Now, I don't know about your issue as a country, but where are we when we go 3 generations back? What are we looking like? War. War. You think there's time to grieve in war? No. And I believe that the majority of what we've been taught when it comes to parenting is rooted in that. It's rooted in that unexpressed grief. And the reason that we don't allow children to have attitudes and feelings is because it's too reflective of the unexpressed grief that we've not had. Because when I get upset and when I start to cry, it stresses you out. Stresses your brain out. And then the first thing we want to do is make that go away. We want to make that go away. Now, what's the kind, polite thing to make it go away? Give someone Kleenex. See, that's the kind, polite way to say, please stop crying. Or we give a little pat. Now, it's gonna be okay. Please stop crying. Right? We do those in very subtle ways, and we call that compassionate. We call that taking care of others, but it's actually not. When someone's crying, it stresses them out. Their amygdala is releasing a vibration. Their heart is releasing a vibration that's squeezing their heart. When someone starts crying, you feel sad. You don't like to feel sad because you have generations of unexpressed grief in your lineage. And all that comes flooding up, and you're like, oh, so you gotta get really constricted, really tight. Calm down. It's okay. Calm down. And so it's really hard to allow that energy to be expressed. And we just keep compounding it over and over and over. Now, after today, we are going to light Scotland up with emotional expression. But the feeling is the path to the the feeling is the path to healing. It is not easy. It is not easy, but it is the most powerful thing that you will ever encounter. The feeling is the path to the healing. When you give someone permission to have feelings, when you give yourself permission to have feelings, when you give yourself permission to be sad, when you give yourself permission to be angry, when you give yourself permission to feel whatever you feel, that is the first step. Because you can't give someone else permission to feel something that you will not allow yourself to feel. If you don't feel it, you can't allow someone else to feel it. And therapists are the worst at it. Therapists are the worst at being constricted, saying, go ahead. No, and they won't do their own work. But how can you support your children through their feelings if you can't have your own? The next time you have an opportunity to grieve, the next time you have an opportunity to mourn, to weep, I want you to allow yourself to have it. Because the energy has to come out. Because the feeling is the path to the healing. And the next time your child is upset, the next time your child is yelling, I want you to say, let it out. Don't hold it in. Don't talk to me that way. Lower your voice. No, give me some more. Give it to me. Watch what happens. Watch what happens. But first you have to have the courage to be able to create the environment. If you don't have the courage to create the environment, you will keep suppressing it. Now, what's the courage? What's the courage? The courage is as soon as they get upset, it's going to stress you out. As soon as they get upset, you're going to get stressed out and you're automatically going to want to suppress them. But I want you to breathe into that. I want you to breathe into that stress. I want you to say, I feel scared right now, but I'm not going to die. I'm not going to die. Say it. I'm not going to die. Say it one more time. I'm not going to die. Everything's going to be okay. Everything's going to be okay. Let it out. Let it out. Give it to me. I might feel right along with you. You might start feeling your pain, and all of a sudden, I'm feeling it too. I'm feeling it too, because there's not a single one of you who don't have kids that don't have every right to grieve from the pain and the loss that they've had in their lives. Think about the magnitude of experiences that your children have had. You don't even know. You don't even know. You know what's on the page. You know what's in the book. But you don't know the minutes. The minutes, the hours, the days, sometimes the years. You don't know what it feels like to be thinking you're going to one home and ending up in a home with someone completely different. You don't know. You don't know. But what happens when you slow down and you just think? And you just feel, goodness, what has my child been through? What has my child been through? What has my child been through? That's your baby. Your baby, he may be 15 years old and a complete asshole, but he's still your baby. Still your baby. What has your baby gone through? When was the last time you grieved for your baby, for what your baby had gone through? Just open your heart up and just let it out. If you've not grieved for your baby, I can assure you your baby has not grieved. Your baby has not grieved if you've not grieved for your baby, because they don't know that it's okay to grieve. They feel like they got to hold it in, have to stiff up their lip. And guess what happens? Every time you get stressed out, all that energy is driving that behavior. You want to get out of that behavior, you help that child grieve. You grieve with them. And if you got pain, if you got lost, if you got hurt, then you deserve to grieve it as well. You deserve to be from this weapon. You deserve to cry it out. You deserve to be pissed off about it. You deserve to weep. And then you know what? After about 5 or 10 minutes of that, you're gonna get up and you're gonna be like, okay, let's go. That's it. But you have this belief. You have this belief that if you start crying, you're never going to recover. It's just not true. It's just not true. Your deepest cry, and let me tell you, that's all I do in the work I do. I take people into emotion. I don't even like talking. I don't even like talking. I just want to freaking cry. That's all I'm gonna do. I just want you to cry. I just want you to cry. Your deepest cry is gonna take and probably at best 5 minutes. 5 minutes. And then you'll be like, whoa. Woo, that was good. You'll spend your whole life to avoid that 5 minutes. Your whole life to avoid that 5 minutes. And that 5 minutes feels good. It feels good. Just 5 minutes of release. Just letting it go. And then when you do that a few times for 25 years, then you can really be like, let it out. Let it out. Let it out. I've done it so much. My window of tolerance is so big. It's just like, let it out. We can go deeper. Suzanne? They said again? Yes, find it hard. Yes. Because it's the older we get, this is important, the older we get, the more left hemisphere we get and the less right hemisphere we come. So the more cognitive. So when you think about wanting to cry, you're thinking about it. You're thinking about it. Here's what's important about crying. Crying is not something you think through. So you've talked about it. Talk about it. And I really wish we had like a whole day because I probably just had it all. You think about it. And you talk into the experience, and then you breathe, and then you stop thinking. And you just start feeling, and then you put sound to it. You put sound to the feeling because the body does not communicate in words. The body communicates through sound. The body communicates through frequency. So you put sound to it. So you say, when you were 5 years old, for instance, there's a story when you're 5 years old. I tell you the story when you're 5. This is what was going on. And as this is going on, how did I feel? Let's see. I felt sad. Okay, I felt sad. Okay, now let me stop and let me slow down with that. Let me slow down with that. Let me breathe. Get about the 5-year-old. I felt sad. Felt sad. Felt sad. And then you feel your heart start to be activated. You feel your heart start to be activated. And then you just go deeper into the feelings. You just go deeper into the feelings. Such words. And you have to practice. You have to practice. When it's been so many years, when it's been so many generations, same feelings are not away. You have to practice. And sometimes it's much easier to not start with you. Start with your child. Start with your child. Your child's less connected. You think of your child as a baby. Think about your child before you get up. Whenever they've gone, wherever you've gone. And just sit. Sit. You'll feel it. As soon as you feel that pressure in your heart, that's emotion. Or you feel it in your gut, that's emotion. Or you feel like your shoulders, see, that's an emotion. Emotion is energy in motion. So when the energy starts moving, that's emotion. That's the feeling. That's the feeling. Now you just like slow down and continue to it. Okay. Other question.
You said we wanted to practice this year. Basically, I have to hear if you sleep at my bed, a little time Also, one thing is probably gonna do the binary. What you get, staff with, doctors, so they're not encouraging how to get out. I'm sure if somebody would say, well, what would you say if someone's buying their things? And they see that the young boys actually went to see where when the weapon one says, wouldn't necessarily expect banging head, but.
No, I would say if she was banging her head, the first place I go to is, she's adopted, so how old was she when she was adopted?
18 on the street.
Where was she for 18 months? Okay, so they got the problem.
Yeah.
So for 18 months, she probably spent a lot of time on her back doing this. Right, so when she's stressed, it's the first place she goes to is back to self-soothing, because that's all headbanging is. It's just self-soothing. But if you think that headbanging is her just being obstinate or her just being difficult, then you never even think that she's self-soothing. She's self-soothing because she's stressed. So if it was me, I would sit down next to her or sit next to her and I put my hand between her head and the thing. So at least she's not hurting her head. And now she's getting physical contact with a human being and not the floor. And I would just say, you're okay, you're okay, you're okay. Because I'm actually talking to an 18-month-old, not a, oh shit, 16, not a 16-year-old. Talking to an 18-month. Yeah. It's okay, baby girl. It's okay. It's okay. And once I meet them, then she's gonna come up with it. And she's gonna be like, yeah. Look it out. Okay. But now we're not making the head anymore. Now we're not making the head anymore. Put it up. You got every right to be there. If I was here, I'd be there too. Tell me about it. Let it go. Don't talk to me. I can do this with you all day long. Right? I know exactly where this goes. Every single time. Every single time. Because it's just a paradigm. It's just a paradigm. She's just a baby. She's just a baby. But the reason the adults can't do that is because the adults get stressed out when she's banging her head. So they have to control, suppress, and change it. Yeah. So if I'm busy just trying to stop you banging your head, then I'm not meeting the baby. I'm not dealing with any of this. That's why I gotta read first. I gotta calm myself down first. And I gotta say, because here's the thing. She's banging her head, but she's not gonna split her skull. She might not want me to touch her. But she's banging her head, she's not gonna split her skull. She's stressed out, she's not stupid. So I'm just gonna stay on beside her. And now I'm present. I'm with you. I'm with you. We're gonna get through this. And that's good. Co-regulation. She will slow down the headbang. And then we just go from there. The first key is I got to realize this.
I need to go and see her in the week. You want to go on? And you can teach them about yourself.
I would love to. Well, I'll tell you what you can do. You all heard about the fire?
Yeah.
That's why I appreciate it. With parents like you who say, can you come with me? I can, but you can on your phone. And you can ask me that question. I'm really curious. If you ask Spotify, which is my AI, my Bryan Post AI, what did it say? And a little secret, a lot of times parents ask me questions now to email, and I just go on Bondify and I ask Bondify, because it usually gives better answers than I gave. Sometimes I'll be like, well, I won't Bondify. Good, good, good. Anyone else? Yes, sir.
It's very interesting, new adaptations. People speak about it, and in particular, I'm thinking about, do I know that can affect by people? And, you know, how that might change the approach, if at all.
Well, it's funny you mention that, because just this morning, I shared in my certification group, because I've been saying, you know, children who come from trauma, they're like geniuses. And we just don't realize it. So the term neurodivergent is pretty new to me. Like but it's like neurodivergent versus neurotypical, right? That's your brain versus my brain. I have a neurodivergent brain. My brain is not neurotypical. It's very stress sensitive. Yeah, if I was exposed to alcohol, I'd still have a stress sensitive brain. It would be the same thing. My memory wouldn't be the same. My memory circuits might be more impacted from like alcohol, but at the end of the day, I'm just stress sensitive. So I don't know that I love the term neurodivergent unless it makes us more sensitive to the person. If it makes us more sensitive to the person, maybe. But if it's like every other diagnosis, which makes us more fearful of the person, then it's not helpful. But if you looking at me as neurodivergent gives you a better understanding of my sensitivities, I think we're going to be much better off. And so from there, that's good. So the reason I was sharing this is because just this morning, this Instagram reel.
Maybe met 40 millionaires, and a lot of them are Asperger's, which is hysterical. So I was talking to Joe Loxdale about that, founder of Volunteer. And he's like, yeah, most of us are neurodivergent in some way. We're a little like off. Think about all the things you can cut out of your life if you're a billionaire. You don't have to go to DMV ever. You're never at the airport because you're flying private. You're not going to the grocery store. Like everything comes to you when you're at that level. And so your ability to engage with humans really materially decreases because
You're just living in another world.
you're living in a bubble. It's like when Bill Gates, they're like, how much is it?
I just really like that. Now, all of you with neurodivergent children, you're all problematic billionaires. We should just celebrate. We just gotta get through childhood. We're going to the good stuff. All right, before we have a riot, we're gonna break for lunch. Well, let's we'll start back at 1 o'clock. 1 o'clock? Yes. 1 o'clock.